Amy in sailing across the ocean to Ireland and then to London. She drew lots of pictures and wrote letters to her parents and sisters. Her uncle and Aunt Carol and her cousin Flo were good to her. While they were all in London, they met Fred and Frank Vaughan, and Fred travelled with them to Paris and then to Germany. Amy remembered their picnic with Lowry. She liked Fred and decided that she would marry him if he asked her. He was also very rich. However, Fred did not ask her. He received a letter from England. His twin brother Frank was very sick, and he had to go home. Jo and her mother were becoming quite worried about Beth. She often looked sad and didn't talk to her father as often as she used to. She cried easily. Jo wondered what was wrong. Beth was 18 years old now, and Jo thought that Beth may be in love with Lowry. She didn't speak to Beth about it, but she was very worried. What would happen to Beth if Lowry did not love her? Lowry had some girlfriends at college, but the friendships did not last long. Most people thought that Lowry loved Jo. He was becoming more serious. Jo realized that this might be true, but she did not love Lowry. She did not think that they would be a good husband and wife. She wondered what she should do. Her mother received a letter from her friend, Mrs. Kirk, in New York. Mrs. Kirk was looking for someone to help teach her children and to do some sewing for her. Jo decided to go. She would enjoy meeting new people and seeing some different places. She thought that it would help her writing. Her mother agreed. Mrs. Kirk was very friendly and soon made Jo feel at home. She gave Jo a small room at the top of the stairs. Jo liked her room and enjoyed teaching the children. There were many people staying in the house with Mrs. Kirk. One of them was a German man called Mr. Beha. He was over 40 years old and taught German to the children. Jo saw him help a maid carry a heavy basket. She liked him. He was poor. He was not handsome or young. He wore comfortable clothes. He did not seem to care what people thought about him. His room was untidy. At meals, he ate a lot of food and ate it quickly. However, everybody liked him. He was not married, and one day, Jo saw him mending his own clothes. He and Jo became good friends, and Jo began to take German lessons from him. He gave her books, and she gave him some small presents, too. At meals, he ate. Jo was happy with her work and with her new friends. She was very busy and saved some money. She decided that she would like to have more than enough money so that she could help Beth and her mother. She began to write again. After her novel, she had not written much, but now she wrote some more sensational stories and sold them to a magazine. She went to the office of the magazine and did not like the men who worked there. They liked her stories but made her change them. In her stories, people who did bad things were always sorry and became good people, and people who did good things were always happy. That's what they wanted her to change. If people want a sermon, they said, they will go to church. Jo was not happy about the changes, but they offered her money, so she agreed. However, she refused to have her name on them because she didn't like them. In fact, She felt ashamed of them and didn't want her family to read them. She realized that she didn't know very much about the world and began to read the newspapers to find stories of accidents and crimes. These helped her write the sensational stories that the publisher wanted. Mr. Beher, meanwhile, became a very good friend. He told her that she should study good, simple people, and write about them. She decided to study him. She wanted to know why everybody liked him. She realized that he liked other people and helped them all the time. She discovered from one of the other guests at the house that he was an important teacher in Germany before he came to America. He never spoke about this, but Joe liked him better for it. He was very generous, especially towards little children. He always had time for them and gave them small presents. One evening, another friend invited her to go to a meeting. Several famous people would be there. Joe was very excited. However, when she met these people, she was soon disappointed. They were only ordinary men and women after all. She saw a famous poet eating much too quickly for a poet. She saw a novelist drinking too much wine. She saw another writer being too friendly with a girl at the meeting. A young musician talked about horses. They were all very ordinary. She could hardly believe it. She sat down in a corner by herself to think about this. Mr. Beher came to sit with her. Then she heard some very clever people arguing about the meaning of life. She couldn't understand everything, but she enjoyed listening. She understood that they were taking apart the world she knew and putting it back together without God. It was very interesting. She looked at Mr. Beher and saw that he did not like it at all. He wanted to take her to another part of the room, but she wanted to listen. She stayed where she was. Finally, someone asked him what he thought about it. He said they were all wrong and gave many good arguments to defend religion. Joe was very happy when she heard what he said. She agreed with him. A few days later, Mr. Beher came to give her a German lesson. The children had made a hat out of newspaper and put it on his head. He forgot about it and was still wearing it. Joe didn't tell him about it, and the lesson went on as usual. Finally, Mr. Beher discovered that he was wearing the hat and took it off. He laughed. Then he looked at it and saw there was a sensational story on this page. He did not like sensational stories. He thought they were bad for children. He said that people should not write stories like that for young people. He did not know that Joe wrote stories like that. Good young people should not see such rubbish, he said. He threw it into the fire. Joe went to her room and thought about her stories. She didn't want the people at home or Mr. Beher to see them. She enjoyed earning the money, but now she thought that she was doing something wrong. She picked up all her stories and threw them in the fire. Then she wrote another story, which was very moral, but nobody would publish it. She tried some other kinds of writing, but she wasn't happy. She decided to wait until she was older and had more experience to write again. At the end of winter, she told Mrs. Kirk and her new friends that she was going home. They were disappointed. She invited Mr. Beher to come and visit her, and he was about to agree. Then she told him that Lowry was about to finish college. "I would like to meet him," she said. Again, "I would like you to meet him," she said. "Is he your best friend?" he asked. "Yes, he is. I am very proud of him." She suddenly remembered that Lowry might want to be more than best friend, and began to blush. Mr. Bacher thought he understood this blush. He told her that he would not be able to come.